morning, y'all. It's day 37 of the Winter Bulk at Home workouts. And if it's your first time here, welcome. Feel me? Smash that like button, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more content like this. We did take a couple days off, but I'm feeling good right now. About to hop in. Yeah, this is today's date. So it's Mom Deuce. And this is our workout for today's Friday. So we're actually not doing the push or push-ups right now, but it's the same old sun salutation, six-pack promise. I'll probably do like 4 or 5 sets of six-pack promise, just cause I gotta tighten up these abs and I gotta start like getting these lower two to really pop up. But yeah, y'all, if you liking the content you seeing, again, like, subscribe, comment what you like about it. Feel me? I should be getting the gym soon, y'all. So feel me, as soon as that happens, that's when we're gonna really make strides. But yeah, y'all, we've been consistent. I did take a couple days off, but nah, yeah, we about to just get started. Y'all. So I'm constant. The balls out of gym, man. Pull up ball. I need a pull up ball. Do some push-ups for me. Yeah, it's fake quick. I need to roll up. It's cold as hell.
Yeah, so actually, rewinding back before law school, so I ended up going to law school briefly 5 years after graduating college. My first job actually during those 5 years was I was working on a sales and trading floor at a Wall Street bank. So I was at Morgan Stanley. I spent 5 years at the fixed income derivatives trader, and I like to think that was kind of my real brush up and experience into the world of sales, believe it or not. I was technically a trader on the trading floor, but I would say that's one of the most, I guess, the trading floor is probably the most primitive form of sales, where I remember being a summer intern, and I was a quiet kid, and I stepped onto the trading floor, and the energy of just people kind of talking and facilitating commerce, like buy this, sell this, that was just really eye-opening, and it was electrifying, and the energy was just so contagious. And so I spent about 5 years working there, and then I think about 3 years in, my learning curve was kind of flattening. I was pretty happy. The money was obviously, relatively good for a young age, working on Wall Street. But there were a lot of things where there were a lot of regulations after the financial crisis that had really stifled innovation and risk taking on the banking side of things. So after the whole mortgage and derivative space kind of blew up in 2008, the government had put all these rules in place, regulations in place. And so I knew that if I wanted to spend a career in trading, it just wasn't going to be what would have been like in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. And so about 3 years in, I thought about, you know, I've been in the corporate sector for a while. I at the time I was like, maybe I missed school, and I couldn't really bring myself to go to business school for a lot of reasons, but I'd always been fascinated by the intersection of regulation and technology, for which there isn't a lot of leadership precedent. So even back in 2016, a lot of the things that are pretty topical to now, particularly say like AI, regulation, those were actual areas that, were pretty interesting to me. I I applied to law school. I got in. I deferred for a couple of years because my boss at the end of every year was just like, "Hey, like here's your bonus," and I was like, maybe I'll stay another year." Um, but eventually in 2019, I decided to pull the trigger after about 5 years at Morgan Stanley, and I left to join law school. And I was there for about 2 months, but then 2 months in, I realized, oh man, like I don't think I can do well in a school environment. I like risk taking. I love, um, waking up every day and feeling like there's just a lot of stuff to be doing. And so I ended up dropping out. And at the time, a lot of my friends and people in my network were in the tech startup space, either as tech startup employees or as venture capital investors. And some of them were like, "Hey, have you ever considered going into tech companies and startups? Like, it might be really well suited for your personality." And if I look back from 2014 to really like 2022, that was when there was a lot of the macroeconomic conditions were really favorable for tech companies to grow. It was a low interest rate environment, and so I saw a lot of innovation happening, a lot of really great companies being built, a lot of really great products being built, and I was like, yeah, this seems interesting. It's not as regulated and sort of mature of an industry as the trading industry is, and so that's kind of my story of how I ended up you know deciding to drop out of law school and having me go into the tech space.
Yeah, I love that you're a risk taker. Obviously, that's how you ended up becoming CEO. But you got to be a risk taker. You got to be bold. You got to be hungry for growth. Because I was looking at a Gartner report, and Gartner being a top analyst for technology and things, and they survey these executives, and the number one priority of executives and CEOs is growth. And I'll tell you, I mean, I just think growth in life, whether it's business or life, is the sweet spot where we experience joy as people. It's just really gratifying. And so, in the theme of risk, let's transition to talking about cold calling, because it's a risky thing to pick up a phone and dial a stranger. I'm calling you, interrupting your day, Mr. CEO, to see if there's an opportunity to partner or not. I might get rejected, might get shut down. I'm curious, like, you've been a leader at multiple.
Welcome to Six Pack Promise. Today's workout will require the following pieces of equipment. A physio ball. Physio ball reverse crunches for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
How much time have you spent like cold calling yourself?
Yeah, of course. So, the first company that I joined after leaving law school was a company called Verkada. At the time, it was about 150 employees. They had maybe 60 sales reps and 10 sales development reps, SDRs.
10 seconds left.
Actually, to be in the sales operations team that supported these sales reps. And so
Physio ball skier crunch for 60 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Finance and having dropped out of law school, I didn't even know what CRM stood for, and it was kind of a new world for me. And so the first 3 to 6 months of my job, I was really getting deep into the weeds, primarily by shadowing these sales reps day after day, be like, "Hey, what is your job like? What is your day-to-day like?" We had sort of a bullpen. This was before COVID and everything went to remote, so we had great energy on the sales floor, and I would sit behind
30 seconds left.
To sales development reps and account executives, making cold calls and hearing how how they talk on calls, and that was my kind of first foray. And so for the first 6 months, I didn't actually do any kind of cold calling myself, but my job was basically to build out a lot of kind of custom systems and solutions for our internal sales team to help them be
10 seconds left.
And so, you know, in all the experiences before going Coco, I primarily been the guy.
PhysioBall alternating toe touch for 60 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Since I left and started this company, however, there's been a ton of cold calling I've done myself. And actually, when I think back about it too, I actually was cold calling a lot, even at Morgan Stanley. So when I was a first year analyst, the first job they gave me, I guess you can't, really escape being an SDR in some form or another, was every day we'd have a portfolio of options that would expire at 11 a.m. Eastern time every day. And so
30 seconds left.
3 months there, before doing the, playing with so much base in the tech side, was to call up every single banking counterparty and hedge fund, and basically try to get a hold of someone and be like, hey, you have an option expiring in 2 hours, like, what do you want to do with it? But to your point, it's such a fundamental skill set, like knowing how
10 seconds left.
talk to someone who either like barely knows you or has never heard of you or your company, and being able to put on a professional front and
30 seconds rest.
situation, have a conversation. At the end of the day, I think a lot about business as being built upon trust, and if you're able to kind of overcome trust issues when you're able to talk to a stranger within the first 2 to 3 minutes, those are life skills that you can kind of build on and have really amazing careers.
10 seconds left.
So, yeah.
Man, that is so insightful on how you view, sales and cold calling as a skill set that you can.
PhysioBall corkscrews for 60 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
But I gotta say, I had Chris Orlove on recently, like you, as someone who took a company into crazy growth. He grew from like 200K ARR to 200 million. I think that was a 5-year time frame. So he mentioned that the only people who sell more than professional salespeople are entrepreneurs or CEOs like yourself. Could you give us a look under the hood on some of the ways that you're selling as a CEO?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're a founder,
30 seconds left.
you can either go about bootstrapping your business from nothing or raising money. And you think about what bootstrapping is. If you're really starting from nothing, then when you started that business, you are the primary salesperson. And so, how do you find your first
10 seconds left.
And, you can leverage your network, you can ask people for things, but at the end of the day, to really create something from nothing.
PhysioBall wall plant crunches for 60 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Really, take a chance on me, like here is how I can add value. And so there's a lot of pitching that's to be done if you go the bootstrapping route.
PhysioBall wall plant crunches for 60 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Use that money to hire salespeople or build a product. No one's really just going to hand over, a check for you, a blank check, even if you might be the most confident person without some sort of business plan and a pitch and a vision for what you're looking to build and convince people to invest money so that they can get a return on their investment. So whether you go the bootstrapping route or you go the raising money route, I would say in a lot of ways, raising money is a sales process. You have to talk to hundreds of people.
30 seconds left.
Some yeses, you'll get some maybes, and it's just about knowing how to communicate over and over, and so the process is not that dissimilar from selling an actual product. So I'd say anyone who's been able to raise money is inherently an amazing salesperson because their job is basically to sell the vision.
10 seconds left.
Which happens to coincidentally look a lot like, winning a contract for a sales product in the technology space.
So if you can raise funds.
Physioball stirs for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You've done that. You're definitely an incredible seller. That's selling. Winning your first couple customers, creating something from nothing is selling. So here you are, and you're selling more than really anyone else. And I love that, guys. What if we could see sales as the practice of creating something from nothing, or that capacity? That is cool. That gets me pumped up. So before we talk about
10 seconds left.
guys, I knew about Glen Coco before I even met anyone, because people had come to me who were people trying to break into tech sales, or even people that were
Change directions in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's go over and run a couple cold calling tips, because you were able to listen in to people, SDRs and AEs, to hear what was working for them as you built efficient systems. And you've made cold calls from an investment banking perspective on the floor, as well as, as the founder of Glen Coco. So kind of umbrella question, but any tips on things
10 seconds left.
to making effective cold calls?
Yeah, I think the key to understand, at least, and this is just my opinion, right? Like everyone.
Congratulations, you've completed today's workout.
But someone who's really successful at cold calling is going to be someone who is highly empathetic. So they're able to read the room, they're able to, whether they can articulate it explicitly or not in their heads, or subconsciously, get a sort of vibe or gut check. What I found are the best cold callers tend to be people who, as they strike up a conversation with the other person, they are simultaneously kind of disarming them, because you don't know me, I don't know you, but they're able to kind of build kind of trust over the course of 30 seconds. And in order to do that effectively, you have to be able to sort of read a room, except you're reading the room from listening to a cold call. So I think a lot about a cold call in some ways, almost like a first date, where you don't know that person, they don't know you super well, but you're kind of reading into their reactions, their pauses, their body language, and kind of going from there. I think having a framework is really helpful, because obviously with a cold call, you have a very specific kind of objective.
Welcome to Six Pack Promise. Today's workout will require the following pieces of equipment. A physio ball. Physio ball reverse crunches for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Or some sort of action, right? And so having a framework is really important, and I'm happy to go into that if that's something you're curious about. But alongside the framework, you also have to recognize you can't just read something directly off the script and assume like that framework is exactly how every cold call should go. You might get
10 seconds left.
Busy, or they're not interested, or something happened in their lives where it doesn't matter if you
Physio ball corkscrews for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's helpful to have a framework, but it's also, you constantly have to be self-aware and really kind of approaching it from, hey, this is a person who's giving me their time. How can I make the most of that time in a way that's helpful for them, while also being respectful? And so being able to have a framework, but also to be kind of highly empathetic and be able to kind of read and react.
10 seconds left.
Key to success in this call.
Good point. You don't want to be robotic and just memorizing a script. That's just inhuman. You want to have a framework and approach.
Physio ball passes for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
See what they're going through, what are they feeling, and ultimately show them that you are making an effort to understand them and where they're at and meet them where they're at. And so I do think it would be good to go into a high-level framework, at least your thoughts, right? And there's no silver bullet, guys, as we know in sales. I heard that from the start of my career. Like, anyone might have such a cool way to start a cold call that works for him. I have a different way.
10 seconds left.
And I think let's dive into your thoughts on a framework.
Yeah, I think you know, and again, this is just my personal
30 seconds rest.
approach, but I think not overthinking it like crazy creatively, but just, it cold calling is a trust building exercise. So when I think about a good framework, it's typically, you have an opener, and the opener is just, you're asking them their name, like, hey, is this Karen, for example? I think
10 seconds left.
where you want to be warm and friendly, you want to have a controlled and steady pace, but just kind of using
Physio ball side plank drops for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And so when I think about an opener, it's just like, hey, is this Chris? And just kind of double checking that it's the right person, and coming into it where, if you sound really sketchy and you're like, hey, is this Chris? Then it just sets the entire conversation on.
Yeah, totally. And and I like that because, sometimes it's not the right person.
10 seconds left.
Confirm it is, so yeah.
Yeah, and then, I think a lot about a framework that I like to call the OPS framework.
Switch sides in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And then you're selling. So what I mean by, proceed and pause is, okay, you've established that this is Karen or Chris or whoever it is on the phone. The next thing you really want to do is maybe kind of introduce yourself, like, hey, this is Chris, or hey, this is Ingwan, and I'm calling from, XYZ. And I think that's
10 seconds left.
that the other person is the person you're trying to get a hold of. And the reason for that is obviously, at this point, they don't know who you are, and
Physio ball wall plant crunches for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
and weird things that happen on the telephone, particularly with strangers. And so the best way to think about the first really like 60 seconds of a cold call is you're looking to establish trust with the other person. So they don't know you, you don't know them. How do you say the things so that they
10 seconds left.
feel like you're kind of someone that's worth kind of spending some more time to listen to? And so, after opening, I like to kind of be like, hey, this is, Ingwan, I'm calling.
Physio ball stirs for 60 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And you're calling from some company. And then afterwards, I think I like this concept of permission. So what I mean by that is permission can be like, hey, do you have a couple minutes so I can just explain why I'm calling, or do you, I apologize, this is a cold call, is it okay if I just, explain for 30 seconds, like, why I'm calling?
30 seconds left.
Go back and forth about, like, what the exact kind of verbiage should be. Some people be like, hey, I was wondering if you can help me out for a minute. But I like that. For me personally, what I found works really well is asking for this permission kind of puts the ball back in the other person's court, right? If they're super busy and they're just
10 seconds left.
I just took a call because I thought it was urgent. And whether you have the most amazing product or service for me, like, I just need to get back.
Change directions in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Immediately off the bat. And so it's counterintuitive, but kind of doing things early on to establish kind of a question-based, permission-based approach also helps with this establishing trust concept, where you really want to establish trust. And so after kind of finding out that it's the right person, which is the opener, and then explaining kind of like who you are and where you're coming from. I think the third step in the opening is always about kind of seeking permission and
30 seconds left.
if they have a moment to chat. If they don't have a moment to chat, so be it. It's a waste of your time and it's a waste of their time. But if by asking for permission, it psychologically puts the other person in a state where if they say yes, now they're like a lot more receptive. At least for the next 30 seconds to a minute while you give your spiel.
Yeah, you just described like working up to the first like big win,
10 seconds left.
their attention, like their agreement that they'll give you a minute or 20 seconds to actually hear you out and put everything else on pause. And like, so that's a big victory.
Congratulations, you've completed today's workout.
And what I like in terms of your approach is you're keeping it simple, stupid. My dad always said KISS, right? We've heard this. Don't overthink it. I'm an analytical mind, and at first in sales I struggled with that because I thought it doesn't really help to be like a genius. And I'm not saying I'm a genius by any means, by the way, but you can get in your own way when you overthink things. It's not about saying it right or the perfect words. It's just starting a conversation so that you can then engage where they're at. And asking for permission, I am big on that. I have a couple ways that I do it. Like, hey, Ingwan, I realize I'm completely interrupting your day, so before I go any further, do you have 20 seconds for me to tell you why I'm calling? Or, hey, Ingwan, it's a cold call, but can I steal a minute to tell you why I'm calling? You gave some great examples too, but we can agree on the principle, which is ask for permission. And the thing is, that actually puts them in control, by the way, which I think makes them comfortable. It's like, here, you're in control. I've even heard people say, like, hey, if this isn't interesting to you after I tell you, like, feel free to hang up on me. And it's like, you're in complete control, and I get it's a cold call. So anyways, how about we could continue to rip off that, but progressing to the next phase, like, hey, you know what, Ingwan, you got a minute. I'm busy, but, you know, why are you calling? How might you think about framing why you're calling and to pique some curiosity?
Yeah, I think at this point it starts becoming a little bit more kind of intricate, but still kind of within the high-level framework of understanding what the objective is. So let's say you've asked for permission and they're like, yeah, sure, I got a couple minutes before my next meeting, what's up? Well, they're in control, like we mentioned, but also you're now in control because you now have essentially the next 30 seconds to 60 seconds to explain kind of why you're calling and get to generating interest and kind of creating demand. Depending on the business or the company you're calling from, presumably this is a sales cold call. You might be calling for a company that has a ton of brand recognition. Like let's say you are performing sales for NASCAR, and NASCAR is a huge brand. Maybe it's like events ticketing or sponsorships or something like that. And so you can basically go, hey, I'm calling from XYZ company. Are you familiar with this? That also, you're clearly stating like, the business purpose of why you're calling, which is like the business name. But you're also kind of throwing it back to them and establishing that like, hey, like, have you heard of us? And from that point, if they might say like, oh yeah, we know exactly what you guys do, or hey, I've never heard of you guys. What do you guys do? But I like to kind of have that kind of intermediate step just to kind of, again, a lot of it is just kind of like, in sales, one thing I've heard is, the more the other person is speaking and opening up, the more you're actually doing a great job in sales. Because sales is all about kind of understanding another person's problems and how potentially you can kind of solve that problem. A lot of people at this point, they might have done some research about prospects, so they have some information about their title, their company, and at that point.
Welcome to Six Pack Promise. Today's workout will require the following pieces of equipment: a physio ball, knee tucks for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Your CEO went on a podcast the other day and said that your company needs to be investing more in AI. So if you do a little research and you kind of bring up something that might be relevant to the person or for the purposes of your business in terms of how you can help address a pain or problem.
10 seconds left.
Conversation also helps where this person is like, yeah, this is a stranger, but clearly they've done research, so maybe I'll kind of list it up a little bit more. And if you haven't really
Physio ball around the world for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And you can kind of go into your pitch about like what exactly it is you do and how you help businesses or people in similar circumstances. But I think, at this point, it's all about sort of getting to a point where you're not, this person now knows you now know them, you
10 seconds left.
and so if I think about kind of the hierarchy of the who, what, where, why, what, we've gotten the who out of the what, we've gotten the who out of the way.
Physio ball marching planks for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I love that you're alluding to showing thoughtfulness. You did some homework. You're making it personal. I think people appreciate that effort. Okay, this isn't just a random person where they just picked up the phone with no thought and no intention behind it. And you kind of alluded to this too, sharing that we've helped similar companies like you.
10 seconds left.
And SaaS, like fintech companies that we see they're facing these types of challenges. They're spending 20% more in cloud.
30 seconds rest.
Make it personal, like you said, maybe throw out a relevant challenge with a simple type of company. And, maybe they...
Physio ball corkscrews for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Usually there's some degree of resistance, and we don't have to go into the weeds because from here we're really digging the vision of Raincoat. I can't wait to take us on to the second half of it with you and go fully in on go and help folks who use it out. But any thoughts on objection handling, just even if it's high level, like how to think about when someone pushes back a little? I'm not interested. I understand.
10 seconds left.
Yeah, I think, objections, there are lots of different objections. There might be, I think about
Physio ball levitation crunches for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
apply for any business, which is like, hey, I'm busy right now, or hey, we have no budget, or hey, the timing's not right, or hey, I'm not really interested. And then there might be specific objections about the service or product, right? Which is like, oh, like, what is like, or hey, do you integrate with X, Y, and Z?
10 seconds left.
Specific objection that is specific to your business or your solution. So when I kind of bucket out those two things,
Physio ball stirs for 60 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Because at that point, you know that they're somewhat hooked and interested, and you're actually asking some questions that maybe tell you like, hey, like, yeah, this is pretty relevant to me, but now I'm kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of the specifics. And when you run into those objections, really the best thing you can do is answer them directly and answer the question that they have, like, hey, how does pricing work? And you might, instead of giving like
30 seconds left.
it's in XYZ range. We have other companies that are paying us somewhere between X and Y, or you don't have to completely give away everything because if they ask those kinds of questions, it's a great way to kind of sort of answer it, but also be like, I'd love to get into more specifics with you. It sounds like these are great questions.
10 seconds left.
A little bit more time to learn a little bit more in depth, and those are great objections. When it comes to the more generic kind of categories of
Change directions in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The best way to kind of handle those is, to kind of respond to those with another question, which is like, hey, let's say someone's like, hey, I'm not interested in your service at all. One really great way of handling that might be like, hey, appreciate your candidness. Just out of curiosity, any reason why you aren't interested? And that kind of, when you ask a question like that, it forces the person to kind of switch a little bit away from autopilot mode, and forces them to kind of like engage. And I think if you think about the human psychology,
30 seconds left.
like, hey, I'm not interested, or their mind's on some other thing, or that, and then you're like, okay, what are your priorities right now? People are humans at the end of the day, and I think it's a very powerful effect when someone is asking you kind of thoughtful questions, and showing that they care about like what are your priorities or what are your problems.
10 seconds left.
At least for me, like what I found works pretty good from my experience is just kind of if they have an objection, kind of just trying to probe a little bit deeper into.
Congratulations, you've completed today's workout.
And oftentimes I've actually found that when they have some initial objections and you're able to kind of respond and rebut to that with, questions and curiosity, you can actually turn a cold call into a meeting where initially there was an objection, but then, from the prospect's perspective, their experience is like, this person called. I initially thought I wasn't interested and kind of like blew them off, but this person was both persistent, but also persistent in a good way. They were asking questions about my business. They were asking questions about my challenges and my problems. And honestly, like it felt good to talk to someone who actually cared about my problems and challenges. And so I'm willing to learn a little bit more about how we can help from a solution perspective.
So at the core, demonstrating an intention to learn more, being curious, and showing that you actually care, which might sound crazy that you could show that in a cold call, but you can. That's more important than even the words. And if you show that underlying intention, and maybe it's manifested through questions and just being curious, folks will meet with you. And I remember one of my first cold calls when I was at Google Cloud to a CEO. He put me on the spot, had an objection on something technical, and I said something also like, I would honestly be doing you a disservice if I tried to, answer this question. It's pretty technical, but I have some great resources that I can pull in to help dive deep with you so that you have all the information you need to make the best decision for you. Would it make sense to schedule a call next week? And so I ended up, sometimes an objection really is an opportunity, especially if like technical or out of your scope as a salesperson to set a meeting. And so by the way, thanks to the folks who've showed up live and to those who will see this video as it floats out in the YouTube feed. That's what I love about YouTube. And Des is here, and she's made calls on behalf of Glenn Coco, and she's someone I know from my network. She's awesome, and she said Glenn Coco's frameworks worked, and most people would listen to the pitch before hanging up. She never had a poor phone interaction. So clearly, Ingwan, what you're teaching on the platform and some of the training resources are really helpful for folks like this.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, and so I could riff on and on about objection handling and cold calling, but one final thought before we talk about Glenn Coco, maybe you'd agree, is you want to be a closer. You want to try and set obviously you're trying to set a meeting, and when it comes to booking the meeting, have you seen any like little things that the sellers do well to make sure that you avoid a no-show? I'm gonna volunteer a few thoughts, like you want to confirm, their email, confirm they accept the invite, maybe even ask, is there anyone else who should be included in the conversation? Because sometimes a deal can be stopped dead in its tracks because some key person wasn't involved, right? These are like little nuances as you like set the meeting. Any thoughts on that final piece to tie a bow on our little cold calling segment?
Yeah, of course. There's a lot. I love that suggestion that you brought up. It's just like, is there anyone else that should be on this call? You know that it's going to be a great meeting if they're like, yeah, actually, can you add in XYZ person or someone else? And when you're able to add and loop in multiple people on a first conversation, the chances of a no-show drop dramatically. Why? Because when you have multiple people invited to a meeting, at least one person is potentially going to show up, or internally they're like, what is this? And it kind of builds up sort of anticipation and legitimacy before the conversation. If it's like one person scheduled and that people will still show up if they're interested, but I found that helps a lot in terms of decreasing no-show rates. And if you're making cold calls primarily for like business-to-business purposes, which is to say you are selling a product or service to other businesses, the reality is typically there are often multiple stakeholders involved in the decision-making process to evaluate whether these products or services. And so inevitably, if you're actually going to close a deal, there will be other people looped in. And so asking that question is a great tip. I love that you brought that one up, Chris. The other one is, if someone is like, yeah, I'm free during XYZ time, one of the most kind of one of the gotchas that a lot of people sometimes mix up is just like time zones. So in today's remote world, if you're setting a meeting, you kind of have to keep 3 different time zones in mind, right? Because like the time zone based on where you live, you might live in Houston, so you're Central Time Zone. Whoever is taking the meeting, like the account executive or the product person at your company that you're representing, might be based in New York. And so now you have like Central Time Zone and East Coast Time Zone. And so like, when you're checking calendars, it's always helpful to just double check what the time zone of the meeting invite is. And then you have the prospect's time zone in mind, which is they might be based in San Diego, right? So suddenly you have like 3 different time zones you're juggling in your head, which is like, what is the time zone on the calendar? What is the time zone on the prospect? And what is the time zone, where I am? And so just kind of confirming like time zones, like, you're based in California, is that correct? I just want to make sure. That can actually go a long way in kind of minimizing no-shows before. The other tip is if you're able to, sometimes they're not in front of their computer or their phone, but if you're able to kind of send over the invite to their email address, just make sure the email address is typed correctly, but ask, confirm on the call, hey, did you happen to receive it in your calendar inbox? I just want to make sure, it's not going to your spam folder. And just having the prospect kind of confirm that they received the invite. You might not be able to do this because they're busy and they're like, all right, 2 p.m., I gotta get back, right? But if you're able to get a hold of them and they're interested, and you're like, I'm just sending this over, can you just double check? And they say, yep, got it, that's great. Because the reality is a calendar invite is also a form of email messaging. Sometimes they might not have it show up in their inbox. So just being able to confirm like the time zone and that they received the calendar invite goes a long way as well.
Yeah, no, those are great tips. Time zones can be tricky. I still sometimes am guilty of making a mistake on time zones. We worked it out. You're east in New York, right? I'm in Austin, 1 hour difference, not too bad. But sometimes you got people in California. In my 9 to 5, I have people sometimes in Korea, even in China, believe it or not, or Middle East. And so it really is interesting. So one final tip I'm just going to throw out there is maybe it's 2. It's like it's also helpful to reinforce the reason or the purpose of the call at the end, as you said it. Like looking forward to talking to you next Tuesday at 2 p.m. to introduce you to Tim, your account executive, who talks to a lot of customers like you and digging at cost savings opportunities. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Like maybe that's a little wordy or whatever, but I don't know. I've done that before. You kind of reinforce the value, and then also maybe sending like a calendar an email reminder. I don't know, like you could do it the morning of or the day before. These little things. At the end of the day, if you find a pain though in the call and you build some good rapport and you have a reason for the next call, you're going to do well. So that's my little spiel. Hey, let's dig into talking about Brent Coco now. Let's bring it home. I'm super excited. What was the vision for starting this platform?
Yeah, I think it's really simple. I think everyone can be a salesperson. And what I mean by that is everyone should be a salesperson. And what I mean by that is that, at the beginning of this podcast or this conversation, I brought up how important and fundamental a skill sales is, whether you're a salesperson, whether you're an investor, whether you're someone who's looking to get hired. Anytime you go through any sort of interaction with a human, it's a form of an interview, it's a form of sales. You're communicating yourself, you're communicating a product or services. And so it's just a very fundamental skill set. Being in sales means that you are building up really high empathetic skills, and it'll serve you a lot of success in your career. And I from my time working at Verkada and Wiz, and at Morgan Stanley, there were salespeople in every single function. It's one of the oldest professions in the world and one of the most fundamental skill sets that anyone can learn. And I saw that, there were a lot of people who didn't have sales backgrounds who could go into sales and become really successful because they never really thought of themselves as salespeople. But there were so many characteristics about themselves. Maybe they are empathetic people. Maybe they're super motivated by money and financial stability. And so, I'll give a really specific example. When I was at Verkada, we would hire a lot of our sales development reps and our business development rep teams who would work as bartenders in the marina, and they were just really good at listening to, people talk at bars, and they knew how to have conversations. And so I saw just how broadly accessible sales is as a skill and how critical it is to function in today's society. And I was like, there are a lot of people who can make money, doing sales work. And there are a lot of companies that are always looking for leads and salespeople. And so why don't we build a platform and a two-sided marketplace where we make it really easy for companies. Companies can basically list on our marketplace, and they're like, hey, here's our product and services. Here's what we do. Here's like a training module that you can go through to learn about our company and our industry. If you're curious about cybersecurity or data streaming or restaurant software or insurance, the insurance space, real estate. And on the other side, we've made it really easy for anyone to sign up and create an account at Glen Coco, and they sign up as a contractor, and they can basically log on and see all these different companies on our marketplace, and you know they can go through training and learn about a company in 30 minutes to an hour, get certified. We provide helpful kind of training and coaching and feedback around how to be successful, in doing cold calling and doing sales development work. And then people can flexibly, remotely from home anytime log on and use our platform to generate income just by performing top funnel sales work for businesses.
Welcome to Six Pack Promise. Today's workout will require the following pieces of equipment: a physio ball. Physio ball reverse crunches for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And similarly, you think about Uber and the idea that you would get into some stranger's car and go for a ride, potentially because of a taxi was also crazy. But I think sales is a broadly accessible skill set, and what we're building has a lot of analogies to say like Airbnb or Uber, where really anyone can really easily at any time find
10 seconds left.
sales work, and companies can also really easily find people who are willing to kind of sell the product and get paid for it. And so that's kind of a lot of vision.
Physio ball one leg around the world for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So, and then companies can also have a really great way of generating sales qualified meetings and pipelines for their business, while also being able to potentially hire people full time off of our platform after kind of seeing the results of someone who's good using our platform. So that's kind of what we're building.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned Uber. I tend to do Lyft because I have a Chase Sapphire Travel Awards and I get
10 seconds left.
I've had multiple Lyft drivers that want to get into tech sales. Isn't that crazy? So they could, I could now bring up the Glen Coco platform as a way to
Switch sides in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
use that to sharpen the skills and the track record for the resume to land a permanent tech sales home. Or maybe someone, we'll talk about some of the other use cases, like someone who's retired who is a seller that wants to make some extra money, or someone in between jobs. And by the way, this is so funny, but my dad showed up and he works at a pretty exclusive golf club in Florida, and we had the former speaker watching this job.
10 seconds left.
So maybe he could come out of retirement and make a couple more. That's so funny. But because I'm looking at the comments, thank you guys.
Physio ball marching planks for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We're going to cover everything related to the platform. A key thing people are going to want to know is how much can you make. Now, I'm going to share what I think, like based on what I've seen people can make, and you just correct me. But it seems like people are setting like their own schedule. They can work 2 to 3 hours, maybe a day, and some folks are making 2,000 to 3,000. I don't know if that's a month. I mean, what do you realistically?
10 seconds left.
Like what you could make, and then peel back how making money works on the platform.
Yes, it's really straightforward.
30 seconds rest.
I'm not sure if you can, and in the future we should do some content around like getting the platform. We're definitely going to do that, but yeah, I'm not sure if there's a sharing capability on StreamYard. What I love about it though is we are live to LinkedIn and YouTube, and it post right after, but that's something.
10 seconds left.
Are you able to see this?
Oh wow! Oh my
Awesome.
gosh! Wow! I didn't know we could do this.
Yeah. So
Physio ball corkscrews for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
really exciting companies on our platform. So we have a lot of companies selling enterprise technology to businesses. Multiplier. They have a platform that allows companies to hire people internationally within minutes instead of the traditional process of having to set up a local entity. We have companies that are selling
10 seconds left.
selling e-commerce software. But basically, you can see, how much the payout is, as well as some data and stats about the campaign.
Physio ball levitation crunches for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You can basically come in and browse and pick different campaigns that are interesting to you and go through like a training module. So if you are interested, you basically, oh, that's not the right one, let's see. You can go through a training module where you learn about the specific company and go through sort of like an online training module.
10 seconds left.
The services and the scripts and the messaging. And once you're certified, you can actually use our dialing software where at any given time you can basically
Physio ball stirs for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
training you're approved, you have the scripts and the talk tracks and the frameworks all handy here, information about who the buyer personas are. And you basically start a session and you can basically use our software. All you need is a laptop and a good internet connection. So basically, it's really easy for you to kind of log on and
10 seconds left.
meetings for companies. And the way it works is that if you set up a meeting with a company and the prospect attends the meeting and it's a qualified meeting by the company.
Change directions in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So, one of the great things about our platform is just how easy it is to just create an account, go through training, and get paid out automatically. You don't have to wait until the end of the month to get paid out. It happens like, let's say today you set a meeting for Wednesday, and Wednesday the prospect shows up and it was a great meeting. Then Wednesday you get paid out. Let's say a company is paying
10 seconds left.
meeting, then you get processed $300 directly to your bank account via your direct deposit. We don't store that information, but we use Stripe as an integration layer.
Congratulations, you've completed today's workout.
Yeah, right now, we're in the early days. We launched the platform in July of this year and still kind of scaling it out.